were airborne for just a moment, and we were really up in the air. We were really up in the air.
Hello and welcome to another video with Maxwell's Virtual Aviation. We haven't had any Hercules content on this channel in a while, so I thought we'd take the goose out for a quick spin. It's been a while. It's literally been over a month since I've flown this aircraft, so bear with me while I remember everything. So, as a couple of notes before we get started, for those of you who have not seen my previous videos, this is in fact a rather heavily modified version of this aircraft. It's actually a combination of the original aircraft and the current aircraft, so it would be wise for you to bear that in mind. Some of the things that I do are from the original aircraft, as well as some stuff from the new one. So, let us get started, shall we? For the record, this is why you can see that I actually have names for all my cameras. Alright, now, theoretically the coffee urns have been checked, which is one of the most important things. Let's see if I remember how to start this beast. First things first. Turn on our fuel tanks. And it's 1, 2, 3. Keep those as backgrounds. I do believe those are the fuel tanks that you want open for general flight. Now that we've done that, we need to get our electrical power on. Which is battery is on. Excellent. Turn on our APU power. Those both come on. Let us open our cowl flaps. Go down a little bit here. There we go. And I just go down, open all of these. So we have cooling to all the engines. And then I'm going to go up and center these. Like so. Check my cowl flap gauges. Oh, my cowl flaps are open. You're going to make sure that it's in low RPM. I'm guessing at this point that that is what that is. If you're flying the current Spruce Goose, the RPM gauge, or the RPM, does not change. Excellent. All right. Jump back to that. No, I need flight instruments 0. There we go. That'll work. All right, we're gonna start the inboards first. So that's gonna be 2 and 3. That on. Turn those on. Alright. We are going to prime 2 and 3. And start 2 and 3. Hold our prime until it starts. Good start on 2 and 3. Yep. And then we're going to start 3 and 4. Those are going to come on. That's going to come on. We're going to start 3 and 4. We're going to prime it until it starts. Good start on 2 and 3. Jump back into, and we're actually moving now. We're moving pretty good too. Put this in a low RPM so she doesn't move that much. There we go. And we'll do our outboards here. 1 and 2. Start 1 and 2. Prime them until they start. Good start. And 7 and 8. Start 7 and 8. Prime 7 and 8. And we've got a good start on 7 and 8. There we go. Looks like we've got light rain in the Bay Area today. We're not actually on our runway, which is right there, delineated by those lights, but we should be deep enough now. Let's go ahead and turn our avionics on.
Sierra Bravo 10 traffic timber 12 taking off runway 29er straight out departure.
My co-pilot is always helpful. Turn that off. We're just gonna go up and do a brief circuit. Let's get our lights turned on. That's really bright. Alright, make sure all of our lights are on. Lots of stutters today. I'm not sure if my landing lights are on. Landing lights are in fact on. Pitot heat's on. Sweet. And we don't need the anchor light. Flaps are going to come to takeoff position, which is 1 notch a flap. Very good. Now, we could go through the whole run-up and all of that, but we're not going to do that. What we are going to do is we're going to adjust that a little bit. And we've got enough room to take off. Here we go. Let's get this in high RPM first. And advance the throttles. A little bit of rudder pedal here. And then, according to the reports, Hughes just pushed the throttles all the way forward in one fluid motion. We're going to wait to get on plane here. We're really lightly loaded, so she'll just come off easy as you please. We're not going to bother with turning our APUs off. We're just going to trim those down a little bit. There we go. Let's get that. Bring that power down just a little bit. Look at that. Decent day for flying, I'd say. course, in reality, there's a hurricane bearing down on this region right now, but this is Flight Simulator, so I don't have to use the real-world weather forecast. We're going to go ahead and get those flaps up. Ships in the harbor. A little bit more nose down trim. Since this is just a quick test flight, make sure we can still fly this thing. Someone made a comment on one of my videos about how this was Hughes' biggest, I forget how they phrased it, biggest scam ever. It was lucky to get into Ground Effect. It's obvious to me that the commenter doesn't understand the work that actually went into this aircraft. If you studied the aircraft in depth, you'll learn that there was a lot of scientific work put into this aircraft. Up and to the point that the forerunner of NASA wanted to keep the aircraft as a test aircraft because of its superior hydro and aerodynamic properties. It was the slipperiest seaplane ever made to that point, and there were a lot of calculations done on what the aircraft would do. If you've ever seen the handling characteristics of this aircraft and you've looked at that particular chart, that was mathematically based on what they believed how the aircraft would handle and as they prepared it for the test regime. So it definitely was not a fly-by-night, a crazy billionaire decided to build an aircraft and then everyone went along with it. There was a lot of work on the scientific side put into it to make sure that it was going to be what it was. And furthermore, it was always considered to be an experimental aircraft. It was not a production aircraft. It was always considered an experimental aircraft. Hughes always considered it an experimental aircraft, called it an experimental aircraft. When the War Department decided they didn't need it, he said he was going to continue production simply because he felt that it was important to the continuation and the use of aviation. That's why. Furthermore, in later statements, he had said that had production continued, future aircraft would have been built in aluminum, built in metal. So this was a one-of-a-kind experimental aircraft which did exactly what it wanted to. Had production continued, we would not have seen wooden airplanes, we would have seen metal airplanes. And as a matter of fact, the War Department offered Hughes the opportunity to build the Hercules out of metal, which he declined because so much work had already gone into making the aircraft at that stage. He elected to continue with that. So the fact of the matter is, it wasn't a con job at all, actually. It was a tremendous feat of engineering and really actually helped to advance what we know about aircraft. And every time you see a 747 or a C-5 fly, this aircraft had some small part in making those aircraft happen. So, could it fly? We'll never know, but I mean, most likely. The numbers said it could, the science said it could. It did end up buckling its own tail in the process. The result of hydraulic controls, on the aircraft meant that things got a little interesting in the tail section. And if you look actually at the model, I mentioned it in one of my earlier videos, if you look at the model, you can see the strengthening that was put into the tail section if they were going to fly it again, to make sure that that didn't happen again. That's a post-flight modification. Because this model for this aircraft is based on the one that is sitting in the Evergreen Aviation Museum. And so you see her post-flight as an exterior model because, well, they scanned that particular airframe. Well, the only airframe. So, yeah. If you see my response to that, I took some umbrage to the idea that this airplane was a con job. simply because a lot of people put a lot of work into the aircraft to make sure that it would be successful, even if it was only as a experimental aircraft, a one of that was designed to push the boundaries of hydrodynamics, aerodynamics, and what aircraft could be. So as usual, this aircraft flies really, really well. We're descending at a rather rapid rate. One of the things you'll notice about something that I want to find out when I go finally see the real aircraft in McMinnville is if in fact the view to the instruments is as awful as it is in the simulator because your yoke is blocking it. The thing to remember though is the instrument panel in McMinnville is a different instrument panel than what was on the day of the flight, which is what you see here. This was post, because remember, it was upgraded for 30 years after it flew. So it was not the aircraft that flew on November 2nd, November 3rd. It's been a while. You'll have to excuse me. So that instrument panel is updated. I mentioned that in several of my previous Hercules videos. Alright, let's get ready to land. I believe that we have gone far enough this way that we can... Yeah, this thing will drop like a rock, too. One of the really cool things about it. Just gotta keep an eye on your airspeed. And that gauge right there will just plummet. So I actually went up and did some stall tests on this aircraft when I was flying it a lot, and I actually have a report on that. If anyone is interested in that report, let me know in the comments below, and I will find a way to link them. But this aircraft has some interesting stall characteristics that I would happy to link my report that I made for it. This is going to be like a combat landing, basically. Engines are at idle now. We'll look up here and just see what the landforms look like. Remembering that I've got half a football field of wing out there. And also the water is super glassy, meaning that my ability to read my distance above the water is going to be kind of difficult. But there's the water. Okay. Got some of my landmarks back. Power's coming back on.
Charlie Papa Mike traffic Cessna November 63132 taking off runway 25 left north departure.
Oh, let's take a look. Do I still have this set as my map? No, I don't. That's actually one of my trims. Map is big red button. That's right. How far away am I from our airport? Oh, it can't be that far. That's where our airport's going to be right there. Cool. All right, we'll just one not hit that tower there. All right, we're climbing a lot here. Obviously without a horizon in front of me, it's can be difficult to gauge my distance here. But there is one of the piers. Let's keep getting down here. As one can imagine, this isn't necessarily the easiest aircraft to do a circuit in. But we'll try. Early morning into the fog. Oh boy. And the rain. There we go.
Alpha Alpha traffic Cessna Niner 81 is clear of the runway.
That was a little puckering there for a moment. We lost.
Alpha Alpha traffic Cessna Niner 81 is clear of the runway.
There we go. Alright, that's slow enough, I think. It is raining slightly. Of course, I said it like that, so. Alright, let's bring those engines up just a touch. Hear the APUs chattering away in the background there. In reality, those would be off. And I do a lot of stuff. I checklist this out hard, but remember, the day of the flight, there was no checklist. Hughes surprised everybody with all of his actions. That's just how he worked. He wasn't a conventional pilot. You know, and you read any account of his aviation exploits, and you'll see that. Whether it was breaking the world speed record, or flying the spy plane, or flying the Hercules. You know, he just kind of did it his own way. And that was everything. I mean, like, you know, there are stories of him testing the Constellation when he would just show up and fly, you know. See how we're doing. Alright, we're coming up to it here. Get our speed down a little bit and start descending here. Oh man, it is pretty out. Alright, coming into our final descent here. Really use the drag on the engines. Alright, we're gonna go flaps 1. Alright, flaps are at 1. That's gonna increase the drag substantially. Should start seeing our runway here shortly. A little bit more engine power here. What a pretty day. Alright, flaps 2. For the record, at full flaps, this thing drops like a rock. You pretty much lose all lift, and you will stall without really seeing it. It's pretty scary, as a note. Alright, there's that. We're going to continue our descent now. Good for descent. Here's our triangle. Huh, this makes me wonder how far out we are. I am not seeing our runway. Oh, it's in front of us. Let's do a little bit more power and we'll just try to maintain this. Like I said, it's been a while since I've flown this aircraft here in Long Beach. But this flight down the beach heading towards the runway, it is just gorgeous. Aha. There we go. Alright, runway in sight. Yep, so you go over the causeway, the opening here. And then there you see our lit up runway. I don't know if the download for these runways is still active. I haven't looked on flightsim.to recently. Here we go. Power's coming down. When Hughes landed on the flight, he did a power on landing. Just held it off until it came right down. little touch of power here. Because she will stall out from under you if you're not careful. Without a buffet, she just loses altitude. This isn't going to be my best landing, but here we go. Flaps 3. Oh yeah, we're going to land long here. Flat water isn't helping. Big control motions. Cut him. And nose up slightly.
Kilo Charlie Papa Mike traffic
Nice.
Cessna 65, Niner 4 taking off runway 25 left east departure.
Flaps can come up. Throw this into... Actually, what is it? Is this it? And hopefully not hit the island. And we'll cut the outboard engines here. There we go. Make sure our flaps come up. And we'll taxi back. Hopefully. We'll see. We have enough rudder, and if it doesn't do that weird thing where it... Right in front of us, you see that big dome, of course, next to the Queen Mary. That's where this thing... That's where the airplane used to live. Trying to use some differential steering here to get us back. You know what? We have sea tugs. They can come pick us up. They can come pick us up. So we're going to go ahead and shut those down. Shut down the inboards here. Turn off our avionics. Now, since all of our... let's take care of our control panel first. Well, it turns out I can still fly this, which is really cool. Spent a lot of time learning how to fly it well. As always, my checklist for the aircraft is still up at flightsim.to. Just look for Hercules checklist. Some of them you're unable to do because it was designed for the original incarnation of the aircraft, not the current one. Hopefully we'll get an update with some of those minor things corrected. We'll see. So we're going to turn our lights off, pitot heat off, that light off, landing lights off. There we go. Switches are off. Turn off our fuel. We can go ahead and close our cowl flaps. I think we'd normally leave them open for a little bit so that they would, so the engines would cool, but those are closed. And we can put these back in neutral because my flight engineer doesn't like it when I don't return those to neutral. We didn't even turn on our generators off the engines for this flight. We just ran off the APUs. But those can go ahead and come off. I had someone asking me how to turn them off in a thread. You just press and hold them. There we go. And they'll wind down. So APUs are off. We can go ahead and shut those down. Battery can go ahead and come off. Fuel tanks can go ahead and get closed. And wing tanks can go ahead and close. That, I do believe, is a full shutdown procedure for the most part of this aircraft. Well, thanks for joining me on this really quick little flight. Like I said, I've called our sea tugs. They'll come and pick us up. If you haven't yet, pick up a copy of Howard Hughes and His Flying Boat. Try to get the second copy. I learned a lot from that book as far as the procedures and things like that, and trying to understand how it is. And also the flying boat manual. That also will tell you a lot about how to fly this aircraft correctly, and a little bit more information on how it was flown. So I guess this will end it here for me, and we'll do another video later.